What's up guys, welcome back to another video. We are back with another YouTube. It's been a little bit since we had one, but we are back. We're talking about today how to optimize shoulder function, okay? And I'm going to take you through some of the foundational things that you need to focus on and start implementing in order to optimize your shoulder function, improve range of motion, and build resilience and efficiency in this area, okay? When it comes to resilience and efficiency, the shoulders and the upper body is not something that's discussed a lot, but it's an area where a lot of people tend to struggle, okay? Because we have jobs where we're sitting on a desk all day like this and we start to round forward. We start to get a lot of neck issues. People get a lot of pinchiness in their shoulders when they're pressing or lifting overhead. So it's a very important area to understand the basics of and then apply, okay? And these are the things that we teach people in our foundations program. Our Bulletproof Foundations program runs you through this in a more structured and built out way. But I'm going to give you everything you need so that you can start employing these things yourself and start filling in the gaps where you may be missing some, okay? So to get started with the shoulders, an important thing to understand is we need to look a little bit beyond just the shoulder joint here, okay? And it's important to understand the role of the scapula and the thoracic spine, because the thoracic spine essentially is going to be heavily influenced by our rib cage. But the three key areas that you need to focus on are the shoulder joint itself, the scapula, and our thoracic spine, okay? And we need to marry all these together and make sure that they all function well individually, but also that they function well together as a unit. And the way I like to think of shoulders is we want to think of it from these bigger structures down to the smaller structures. And the bigger structure that we've got around our shoulders is our rib cage and our thoracic spine. So that's the first layer we need to look to optimize. Second layer is our scapula. They're the next closest thing to that shoulder joint and they're the next biggest structure. But the scapula need to be able to move with the shoulder joint and with the thoracic. And then the third layer we really look at is the shoulder joint itself, those deeper layers around that joint capsule. And it's important that we optimize how these things move. And the reason why I like to think of it in this hierarchical way or in this bigger to smaller structure way is because number one, we need space in the thoracic spine for our scapula to be able to glide and move as we move our shoulders, okay? And the reason why the scapula then, or why they need to be able to move is because when we rotate our joints, so internal rotation, external flexion, extension, when we do that, the scaps need to be able to move with this shoulder joint, okay? So I would encourage you to get out of thinking of the shoulder as a joint only and start seeing it as this shoulder complex, okay, this whole area, because it is a little bit different to other joints where we need multiple structures working in unison and working well individually together. So now I'm going to show you a couple of basic exercises that is going to address each of these areas and how you can start to use these in your training to start optimizing your shoulder function and start getting out of pain and building resilience and efficiency in this upper body. So let's go. All right, so the first thing that we need to address is our thoracic spine, and we need to restore mobility in the thoracic. And the way I like to work on improving thoracic mobility is first starting with flexion and extension and then incorporating rotation through our thoracic. And the way I like to work on flexion and extension is actually by incorporating the shoulders and the scaps as well. So instead of just staying in this like rigid posture and flexing and extending the spine like we would, for example, in like a cat-cow, this can be a decent way to get movement into that area. But the way I like to work on it, and a way that I find much more effective, is to incorporate our shoulders and scaps with the flexion and extension, okay? That allows us to drive more potential space in that area. So to work on flexion, what we want to do is we want to flex forward and think of internally rotating the shoulders as we flex, and we want to reach those elbows as far forward as we can, okay? What that's going to do is it's going to take all that slack out of our upper body, and it's going to allow us to really open that space in the thoracic. Shoulder blades start to move away from our spine and they open up that space. And when we're in this position, what we're going to do is take a breath in, breathing into the back of our rib cage, and then we're going to do the opposite now. So I'm going to open out, extend elbows down into the back pocket, open all the way out with those fingertips, come back in, inhale, exhale. And you're just moving in and out, coordinating that movement with the breath. and trying to keep that movement as much as you can to the thoracic spine. So we don't want to shift too far through the hips here. We want to keep extension and flexion in the thoracic and maintain that kind of integrity and structure here in this lower part of our spine, okay? So that's the first, opening up extension and flexion in the thoracic. Then to work on rotation, we want to take this principle of what we call our coiling core, and we want to start to get some rotation now down into one side. And again, this is a really effective way because it allows us to incorporate our shoulders and scaps with rotation of the spine. And the way that we can do this is we're going to take our hands and we're going to grasp our hands together. And from here, I'm going to drive my elbow down into my hip. So I'm extending the spine and I'm reaching the top elbow nice and tall. So I'm creating length on this side of my thoracic spine. I get that side bend and rotation by driving my elbow down into my hip and my hip up into my elbow. And I'm going to breathe here. Feeling the engagement on the lat, on this closing side or the short side, and feel that lengthening up at the top here. Breathing into this open side of the rib cage. We can switch then and hold. We're getting our head over our foot. We're priming good movement mechanics as well as opening up some nice rotation in that thoracic. The next step then is I like to make that rotation just a little bit more dynamic, and we can do that using a landmine, and I like to use these landmine screwdrivers. So we're going to get down into our short side and long side, and from here we're going to switch side to side. I'm finding my landmark on my left side. I get my short side, I get that rotation of my thoracic. We're going to take a breath and we're going to switch. Okay, now we're getting used to driving a little bit more dynamic rotation from the core and start to open up rotation in that thoracic. The next layer then is to focus a little bit more on the scapula, and you can start in this kneeling position. Scapula push-ups here are going to help you just engage those muscles around the scaps. So I'm pushing into the floor, push the ground away, feel those serratus kick on, those stabilizer muscles around the scapula. We're going to sink down, push the floor away, and then just progress it by bringing it into a push-up position, and then you're just putting more load through the scapula in this horizontal plane, okay? So pushing down, try to keep those elbows straight, push the floor away, isolate that movement into the scaps as much as you can, push, hold in this top position for a second or two, control down, push the floor away again, nice and strong, nice and controlled. Then you can take that into more vertical motions of the scap, and we can use something like active hangs. So in this position here, pulling down, so you're thinking of shoulder blades down into the pockets, hold for a second or two, control back down, ears and shoulders come together. Nice and controlled here, and again now we're just working different muscles. We're working on that overhead range of motion in the scaps and starting to teach those scaps how to glide and move with that overhead flexion of the shoulder. Then we can start going a little bit deeper into the shoulder joint itself and working on internal and external rotation. There's one movement I really love to isolate both, okay? To strengthen external and open up range into internal. This is what most people need as a beginning. Take a dumbbell, gonna sit up on the bench. You're gonna place the arm here up on the knee, and we're going to work external rotations here. The reason why I love this so much is we can really isolate this shoulder joint and the rotator cuff. And what we do here is we allow the dumbbell to pull us down. So we control this eccentric here. We're lengthening all these internal rotators, opening up some nice space and range in that shoulder joint. And then from here, I squeeze and lift and contract those external rotator muscles to pull me back into this top position. Controlling all the way down. Nice and easy. Using our breath. Really feeling the muscles on the back part of that shoulder work. And when you come down here, you're getting into that internal rotation. Feel that stretch and lengthen in there. And we're getting nice movement and nice loading into that joint capsule and strengthening those muscles that stabilize that ball and socket joint. So those are just some really simple things that you can start doing. But if you work off of the principles of start with these bigger structures, okay? Start with the rib cage and the thoracic, open up the space. Start to restore some mobility in that area in both flexion, extension, and also rotation. Then start working a little bit more on the scaps, isolating the scaps a little bit more, and then finally working more isolated to that shoulder joint. Most people need to open up that space again in their thoracic, because again, we're spending so much time in these kind of positions all day, and we start to get very compressed up around our shoulder. So when we try to go overhead, we can't. We get stuck because we can't get that opening. And our scapula tend to start to wing, and they start to get very compressed, and they can't glide on the rib cage with the movement of our shoulder, okay? So this is why it's very important to go to the root cause, and trying to address just your shoulder joint can bring some benefits, but ultimately you'll probably get stuck a little bit somewhere along the way. And this is my experience, and what's worked the best for me and for the clients I work with who come to us with shoulder issues is that we need to restore thoracic range of motion first, then we need to make sure the scaps are doing their thing, and then we integrate that into all these motions of the shoulder, okay? Because all of these motions of the shoulder that we think of, like internal, external, flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, they all require that we have motion in the scaps and we have motion in the rib cage. So this is where I see most people fall down. We just focus on the shoulder itself, but we don't look at what's going on back here. We don't look at all this space that we should have, that we don't have. And the benefit of this is it not only helps you improve your shoulder function, but it's going to make you more athletic. It's going to make you more resilient. It's going to start to make sure that you're not suffering with lower back issues, neck pain, because we've dealt with this big structure here, optimized how everything is functioning as a system, and we've also resolved our shoulder issues. So give this approach a try. If one of these areas is an area you've neglected in the past, let me know below. Let me know your experience with this, and make sure you fill in the gaps using these 3 principles of start with the bigger structure, which is our thoracic, then let's go to the scaps, then let's go to the shoulder, and then let's look to integrate everything into our strength work and into our training. But that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. We're back with YouTube videos. There's going to be one coming every week now as we move forward. We're going to be doing our best to get more and more content out to you. Let me know in the comments below what kind of things you'd like to see. What is it you need help with? What is it you'd like to see me address? What guidance do you need to get out of pain, to build a mobile body that is resilient to injury? Because that's why we're here. We want to unlock that freedom and efficiency and effortlessness in our movement so that we can enjoy life and we can push ourselves and compete to our maximum. That's all for today, guys. I'll see you in the next video.